so he's in Volcanoes quite a bit and adjusts all the boards there at Volcanoes as well.
Yeah, and Dave's on staff here too, and a lot of these boards, I mean, actually, he's touched every one of them and made sure that they're playing the way this tournament is the best tournament in the world. So he's a big part of why that is.
He's one of the best in the business when it comes to adjusting boards. You go down to Volcanoes and those boards are playing pretty good out there. So
looks like Dave's starting off with kind of a mid-range weight there.
You know, a lot of that, he just really doesn't want Jason to really test into the board here. He wants him shooting at short weights. You know, they did their practice weight, so Jason probably feels pretty comfortable with the end of the board already.
Yeah.
So he's just going to go ahead and hit weights, try to get a lag. So here you will probably see Jason go ahead and test the end of the board, see what his lag hole is going to be. I'm not extremely familiar with Jason Papa's game. I know he's from Michigan. I saw him out here a couple years ago, and he had a really good run as a 0 out here and moved to a -1.
So John McDermott just walked into the booth, who's going to relieve me of my duty. And so you guys have fun. Here's John.
All right. So right here you'll see Jason go ahead and protect his hammer. You saw him throw a left-hand practice lag, which means that he probably wants to lag left-handed. So he's going to use his protection on the other side of the board, make Keithahn throw on that side. If Keithahn sticks that weight, Jason has his favorite hole to lag to. So you actually see Keithahn rolled that weight to Jason's left hand, so now Jason's going to have to check another spot here to lag. Looks like he let it go pretty good. I think that's going to get there.
That has been
it's running quite a bit down there.
Yeah, and watching the match before that, it seemed like maybe about 1.5 feet or 2 feet from the end, it pulls up on that right cross, and then when it gets past that, it does look like it runs a little.
So you're going to see the same thing here. Keithahn's just going to go ahead and throw a mid-range weight, make Jason throw at it.
Natalie Dickey to board 5. Natalie Dickey, board 5.
So I know you're much more familiar with Jason Papa than I am, just being from Michigan. What's his game like?
Yeah, thanks. And you've had a chance to watch Dave quite a bit more than I have, so this is perfect. I've actually known Jason since he was about 2 years old. When his parents brought him into the bar, and he would stand up on a bar stool or a little chair and just shove the weights down the table. So I think that he is one of the top players in the game. Not very well known outside of our area because he doesn't travel much, but he's got 3 or 4 different span shots with each hand and a good free hand, good blast shot. Thinks the game pretty good. Yeah, just super solid. 2 years ago, the last time he was out here, he beat 3 or 4 top 10 players in a row.
Yeah, I'd mentioned that. He had a really good run as a 0 down here a couple years ago.
Yeah, but there's always that they didn't really know him, maybe didn't play him the way that they would have had they realized, that he had that much game. So sneaking up on somebody the first time around is one thing. Coming back and being able to do it again, obviously a different matter. We'll see if he's up to it.
Yeah. You'll see Keithahn will probably try to stick this weight. You won't see Keithahn really throw extremely hard at a whole bunch of stuff. If he does, it's going to be left-hand spans. For the most part, he really likes that left-hand span. So you got a clean board lag here coming. And early in the game, especially at 1-0, you know, we know that at the pro level, ones aren't going to win this game. So they're going to push for the end. As it gets maybe a little tighter in the game, you're not going to just really throw for the end of the board. But they want to really get a feel for the end of the board. They know that this is a long match, you know. So I would expect him to start to pull back a little. He's had a couple strong lags in there. You'll see him pull back a little bit.
It's interesting in our game, kind of a new thing for all involved to have commentators right behind you. And in previous experience from last year, it seems like whatever player in the match gets more caught up in the conversation that's going on behind and is turning around and making comments back. Those players have not fared as well. Yeah. So we'll see. It's just another level of just another distraction to put out of your mind.
I expect Jason to probably try to bump up his blue weight here. The board does pull pretty hard that way, so he's going to have to get inside that weight. You'll see it start to pull here, and he got inside of it. That's a perfect shot right there. Oh, jeez. Little firm. Again, you just see that run off at the end of the board there. So now Keithahn has to make a decision here. Does he want to just go ahead and stick up Jason's blue weight? Looks like that's what he's going to go ahead and do.
Yeah, haven't played much against David, but I wouldn't expect him to get overly aggressive with anything here early. He seems to be a little more on the conservative side. Maybe that's not the right word, but compared to some of the very aggressive younger or newer well-established players on the pro side.
That is true. You know, he's not gonna be as aggressive as David Williams Jr., Josh Duddle, Roger Holloway,
or perhaps yourself.
Yeah, I'm not known to be conservative, that's for sure, which happens to get me in trouble quite a bit. So you'll see Jason here. I'd imagine he'll try to just stick this deep weight.
Yeah, he tried the double last time and went through him and got very lucky that David's third weight went off the board because he could have been in quite a bit of trouble.
And I think right there with Keithahn's third weight, having 3 weights on the board there is huge, even if they're all singles.
Yeah, certainly if that weight had stayed on there anyway, it didn't need to be at 2 or 3 to be dangerous.
Effective.
Well, he's going to try and make a little slide here. Very nice.
Shot. I'm going to go ahead and say that you will probably see a span. It's going to be a rail shot here, which is very, very surprising with as much as.
He's lagging. Yeah, I thought he might try and just stick that double with his left hand wide span shot, but nicely done there.
Dave's just going right back to that mid-range.
David's going to keep these weights short, make sure Jason doesn't get passing opportunities, although that's a little deeper than.
And it kind of came out a little bit, but.
Not a great pass shot there, but I think his thought is he's going to try and keep Jason from getting the feel of the lag from this end as long as he can.
And, you know, sometimes as a player, you lag off 2 straight times. You hope to try to get the other player's 1 working and you get to lag a free lag. So I wouldn't be surprised if Dave sticks this weight if Jason goes ahead and passes it up here.
Yeah, after lagging off twice, certainly the clean board is not necessarily what you want to see.
Yeah, you're not looking forward to that. So you'll see players protect their hammer a lot short or deep. You see Jason, he just wants to really get a feel for the end of the board here. There's no reason to try to protect it short or deep if you don't have a real good feel for the end. See if Dave sticks up this weight. And
looks like it's in a good spot to stick.
it looks like a great spot, especially with those black weights. They tend to, oh.
Wow. That was not particularly close.
So it looks like, for the most part, Jason, is he a left-handed rail lagger?
You know what? He has very little preference on his lagging.
Okay.
He's just as likely to lag right or left-handed, which makes him particularly tough to play sometimes.
A lot of times you go ahead and you put in that deuce right there, left-handed. You may really like that feel and just go right back at that deuce. And if you bump it to a 3, great. If you get in there, we'll see if the right-hand lane, if he likes that. That's really, really close there.
Yeah, certainly lagging right back at the weight is something that a lot of good players would do in that situation. Or, it really wasn't deep enough to make a split out of, but.
And if it's a little deeper, even if you get, you give that a little tap, your other weight's in a deuce. That was pretty close to. If you do happen to get right on it and tap it, that other one might be a 1, so it may not be worth the reward there.
But by the same token, he's lagged off a couple times right-handed, so having just thrown a nice fat deuce in there wouldn't have been a bad play to come back with that same shot.
Right. So you're seeing the same strategy without the hammer here. They don't want them to check the end of the board. As a more aggressive player, I really like to really get a feel for the end of the board. I want to see the lines. I want to see everything. I figure that in a match on a board that's not real hammer control, hammer may switch a couple times. I want to know both ends really, really well. And by these short weights, you just really don't get a feel for the end of the board. If it does flip, now you're lost on the speed because you've been throwing short weights all game. But players' preferences. Some people just like to hit weights and lag. Some people want to feel the end of the board. Completely up to players' preference, playing your strengths.
Yeah, and what Eddie mentioned there for the people that don't play at a necessarily a high competitive level, talking about a hammer control board, oftentimes a board is going to be noticeably faster one direction or the other, which means that one end is easy to lag and the other one's a little tougher. And in that situation, then both players are kind of battling for control over who can get the hammer on the easier lagging end.
See if it gets in there, see if it stays in there. And so we talked earlier in the broadcast about throwing a flat weight. You see that Keithahn, whenever he lags freehand, it will tend not to spin much. So once it gets into that deuce, you have a much better chance of that staying there as opposed to lagging a rail shot where it's spinning. You get into that deuce and all of a sudden that weight starts to kind of eat up wax and it starts to spin back on the board. So whenever you're lagging, I think it's really important to be able to lag a flat weight and be able to get to your destination and just stop there.
Yeah, that's always been my preferred lag. Not that freehand shots don't tend to have a lot of spin on them anyway, but yeah, definitely the flatter you can throw them, the better. And we have seen some weights spin back on the boards this week. So these two guys, I don't know, they may not have ever played each other before.
I'd be pretty surprised if they have.
Yeah, because Jason's only been out here a few times, although he did kind of run all over Division I 5 or 6 years ago.
Did he?
Actually, I think he won Division III also at one point in time. He got kind of a baby face anyway, but with his picture popped up in the Division III, he was, I think, probably 22 or 23 years old and looked like he was in grade school. He owns a venue called Madison Park Bowl back in the Detroit area that has 3 shuffleboards and Jason also carries around a 200 average as a bowler also, and does that at a pretty high competitive level too. So
that's awesome. You see a lot of shuffleboard players. They're good in other stuff, whether it be darts, pool. I think they just get really, really eaten up in this game because of the strategy side of it. I know that's what got me coming from an athletic background, being able to really, really have a cerebral understanding of this game is what really, really separates this game from other games like pool, darts, in my opinion.
Yeah, and you do see a lot of converted pool players, or I have over the years, that once you start to realize how deep this game and how strategically intricate it is, it certainly gets in your blood.
Yeah. Josh Duddle being one, I heard he was a pretty awesome pool player and went in and turned over to shuffleboard, and now he's hooked, has been hooked, I guess you can say, for quite a few years now.
Yeah, I did hear Bill Melton told me once that he was one of the best pool players in Oklahoma.
You know, that lag really confuses me there. He threw a deuce a frame before, left cross, lagged off right cross, and then he went back to that right cross to lag there and then shortened up and comes up short. I feel like
the only place where he has been successful was that left hand. You'd think he'd go back to it until and maybe continue to feel out the right hand when opportunities present themselves.
Right. I mean, you see that weight go off with your right hand cross, you may get a little scared of it and tend to pull up on it, and that's what happened right there. Now, granted, that last lag that he did trickled off, so he may have felt like, you know what, I have a pretty good feel for that. Let's go ahead and go back to it, just take a little bit off of it.
That last weight by Jason almost looked like a kind of tempting Keithahn to pass it. Jason does like to play that. He's got a lot of confidence in his ability to shoot out of those situations. So
I love it.
Suits your game. Just
stuff I live for. It's what makes this game fun for me. The hitting and weights and lagging part isn't what drew me to the game. That's for sure. It's the board play, getting around weights, free hands, the stuff that's makes this game really, really fun. And there you go.
Yeah, that was just too tempting. We'll see. This has been a spot that said the games I've watched so far, people have struggled on the speed. And we have seen a number of those very close in that spot.
You hate walking down to the board and seeing your weight standing up vertically.
Yes.
You know, geez, that just barely trickled off. Like you can see that weight right there just standing up.
Yeah, that means it was literally within a 100th of an inch or so.
It's one of the worst feelings. So I think you'll see Jason get right in there.
And that's what I've seen a lot of. Right in that spot, about a foot long, they're just grabbing.
But, you know, Keithahn's lagging against two here.
Yep, never anything wrong with that. Looks like it's got good speed.
It's a good lag. You'll see Dave lag, like we talked about Jason really not having a preferred lag. I think Dave's pretty comfortable lagging both hands, free hand. I think he tends to like to throw a right cross lag, but by no means is he married to lagging that way. If it's not working, he'll switch it up and lag some another lane. So
interesting comment about being married to something. I know myself sometimes, even if I found maybe in Jason's case where I've got a left hand that floated right in there, sometimes I just get stubborn knowing that there's no reason in the world I can't lag that other shot and maybe don't get away from it and go to something that is working just as a point of personal stubbornness.
I'm with you. I'll go in there and bury right crosses all game long, and then I get an open board and I'll throw a freehand lag and it'll come up short, and I'll look at myself and say, you've been throwing right crosses all game long and just burying weights, throw a right cross, and it's just a lot of that's a mental aspect of it. You get sold on what you really like to do, what you're comfortable doing, and you feel like you can do no wrong throwing your perfect lag.
One of the most dangerous feelings in all of shuffleboard is that when that little feeling of invincibility touches you a little.
Absolutely.
It's gotten me in plenty of trouble over the years. David looks very comfortable with the speed from both ends right now.
Let's see what lane Jason goes with here with the lag. Back to the left hand. Looks like it's got to sit down.
Yeah, it looked,
it's got to sit down a
plenty
lot.
Firm. Yeah, that not particularly close.
No.
And I would think he's got to be stroking pretty good, because he was down in that last game against Jim Payne and won that match. And Jim's been monster tough in these big events in recent years.
He lost the match against Jim Payne. Jim Payne's still in the winner's bracket here.
Excuse me.
Yeah, this is a loser's bracket game here. So we'll see. Keithahn's just going to hit weights and lag here.
Sorry that your commentating partner doesn't know more about what's going on in the tournament.
Trust me, I looked at the bracket board once I got kicked out by Keithahn. Saw where everybody was. You'll see here, Jason's going to try to get something working. He's going to throw emblem ones. Maybe Keithahn sticks something we can get in there. Keithahn's just going to hammer weights, hit him off. He doesn't want to stick anything. That's not a terrible stick right there because of how deep on the board it is. So you may see Keithahn, he doesn't really care if he sticks that weight or not, which he didn't, but either way, he's
Jason's
happy.
just kind of searching for some place where he feels like he can find the end of the board.
You know, and right here, I'm throwing an emblem one because I know that Keithahn doesn't want to stick it, and so I know that he's going to hammer it off, and then I'm throwing a deuce somewhere for Keithahn, preferably not to the left span because I think he practices that in warm-ups quite a bit. So maybe left cross, make him get that left span out quite a bit. Let's see what side of the board Jason goes here. He will not be throwing off on purpose. He's trying to put a 2 or 3 somewhere here. He's going to go right for the middle
I think
of the board.
right now he'd take a 2 almost anywhere.
Yeah. And they really haven't felt the end of the board. You know, they've been playing a lot of short weights all game long, so both players know that. They're not real comfortable with the end of the board as far as sticking-wise. He really doesn't. I mean, that's not terrible right now with this score for him. He's happy that stayed on as opposed to going off. We'll see if Keithahn knows this shot here. It pulls pretty hard here late. And he's all over it. Of course, the perfect shot there would have been a light deuce, but like I said, he's not at that point in the game, 7-3. You're not lagging particularly well. You're trying to get somebody to get a hammer change or maybe hop a weight there and try to get the momentum shift in this game.
Yeah, and that light deuce is one of the most beautiful shots in shuffleboard. But, yeah, if you're already struggling with the lag, it's pretty hard.
Yeah.
You kind of got to be dialed in to be able to throw that light deuce with any kind of consistency. So
it's really funny hearing some of the lower divisions go ahead, just throw a light deuce in there with your last weight, and they think that it's just automatic. Yeah. And I mean, it's by far one of the hardest shots in shuffleboard to be able to throw that light deuce with your third or your last weight without the hammer. There's very, very small room for error there. Let's see, left span there.
Yeah, he missed that once.
Yeah,
early in the game. Actually, that accounted for 2/3 of Jason's points. That one miss.
You know, and here this late in the game with a player like Keithahn who's not firing at weights, throwing a 2 or 3 down there and making him stick a weight and then being able to set up on it is a great strategical spot, as opposed to him just chipping off these short ones. Let's see what kind of. Man, there's not much there. Playing on this board last night, his best way to try to go in there is probably a right hand, really up the rail and let the weight try to fall behind that other weight. It's a pretty tough go around right cross.
Looks like, just from his position, looks like he's thinking right cross. He might not be familiar. Don't know if he's played this board or not, but.
It tends to fight back quite a bit once you get down there. So I'd be surprised to get.
Oh, what a beautiful shot.
That's a great shot right there. See it kind of sucking back. That's a spin that we're talking about right there. As that weight's spinning, it's kind of still coming back a little bit. It stayed in there, though.
It did stay a deuce, but yeah, to get it that far over across the board, you got to crank it quite a bit and put the spin on it. Very nice shot there.
Good shot by the Keithahn. So that's a perfect example right there of you throw that right cross in there, you get a deuce. There's no reason to switch up your lag. You know, you go right back to that same spot that you just put a deuce in there.
Yeah, and even though that was very tight to the rail and everything, yeah, absolutely. Especially when it's you don't really have much of a feel for the end.
Yep.
That's.
So you'll see.
I remember how reluctant I used to be. Early in my career, as I started to become a good player, when my mentor would want me to lag right into the spot where I already had a deuce or something like that, and it was, it takes a little while to get it in your head that really is the play.
Mm-hmm.
In the lower divisions, they get shy away from that kind of stuff. But
now there may be times in a game where you go ahead and you throw that left cross and you get it in there for a deuce, but you've been lagging right free hands all game long and been lagging 2s or 3s, then go ahead and stay there with your the way that you've been lagging 2s and 3s. But if you're struggling getting a lag in there and all of a sudden you find something left cross, even though that may not be your go-to lag, then go right back to it if you're not lagging well on your go-to lag.
Yep, absolutely. Well, nothing has changed for Jason right now.
No.
He's hoping to have a light deuce at the end of on his last weight.
No.
Keithahn may just stick that because it's really too deep for Jason to want to stick back.
You know, and it's right in the spot where Jason just put his weight the frame before that
right.
Keithahn stuck. So Keithahn's pretty comfortable with that spot. If I'm Jason here, I'm hoping to try to stick this and get it off of that spot. Maybe preferably move it to the right side because I think the right side's a little harder to stick than the left side.
But for me personally, if I don't feel really good about rolling, and I certainly don't want to stick it dead, I might just hit it hard. Most guys are not going to be overly aggressive, lagging at 10-5. If he takes a 1 and you lag a 3 coming back,
absolutely,
you know, it's a one-hammer game.
That's a great point. 10-5 is an extremely dangerous score in shuffleboard. Being up 10-5, you start to get complacent. You want to move that scoreboard. So Dave's happy with lagging a 1 here. Jason's going to really be pushing for the end of the board next frame. Now all of a sudden
he pushed it, you know.
Now all of a sudden it's 11-8.
No, but it did catch up on that one spot there.
He got it in there.
Yeah, I mean, you're always thinking about getting on 12 in this game, but certainly at 10-5, it's not going to get if you throw it off, you're really kicking yourself. That's,
you know, that even though they may not look like a big lag in a game, you're up 10-5. You're running away with the game to the average player. Lagging a deuce there is huge right there, as opposed to lagging a 1. Like I said, Jason comes back, he lags a 3. It's 11-8. Keithahn goes ahead, he takes his 1 again. It's 12-8. All of a sudden, you may have a 12-12, 13-12 game out of nowhere. 12-5. Dave's separated himself from this game pretty well here. And it says the small stuff right there strategically, or the momentum shifts in games, just the difference between 11-5 and 12-5. It's an astronomical difference, I believe, from being able to close out this game.
Yep, absolutely.
It's very hard to take 4 ones to get out of this game. It's a lot easier to take 3 ones to get out of this game if you need to.
And at 12-5, you know, assuming you don't do anything wrong, there's a pretty good chance that 3 ones is going to get you out of this game.
Got to sit down a little bit. Oh, it's gone.
Think.
So if it's
I don't get that at all.
As my last weight, I'm trying to cover up as much board as possible at 12-5.
Yeah, scoreboard, block the crosses.
Even if you say you get that weight in there and it sticks out a little bit, and how you let Jason go in there and stick it for 3, make him lag at 3 to get it.
Yeah, unless it's a fat 3 that's pretty wide open, he's not shooting at it anyway.
I mean, that lag right there, a lot of that has to do with that weight that you see right there in the side that Dave just picked up.
Yeah, you throw that short weight in the middle, and that opportunity's not there.
Yeah, that's pretty confusing there. There's no reason to try to win a game 15-5. You know, you just go ahead and make them lag at 3 around your weights. And if they do it, they do it. But throwing it off, leaving a player at this level a wide open lag, even though Jason hasn't been lagging well this game, you let somebody start to get hot that way, and all of a sudden the momentum in this game really shifts.
Yeah, when you have a big lead, you almost always expect a little bit of a charge from the other guy somewhere, because he's certainly playing a little looser, nothing to lose kind of thing.
And you know, in a lot of sports, you'll see momentum shifts in games. Even though the score here was 12-5, if this game ends up Keithahn wins this game 15-13, the momentum in that has shifted. All of a sudden, Jason's found lags. He feels really good going in that second game, as opposed to losing 15-5, and you're just going in like, man, I can't get anything working. We're gonna have to really switch something up. So you'll see a really instrumental part of the end of this game is trying to get some momentum back in this game, possibly, obviously trying to win it. He's not happy with just losing this game right now. You'll see him continue to.
That's a big shot right there. Because if he doesn't stick that, and I might run a little counter to traditional thinking on this, but if I were Jason, I'd love to have a huge one up there where Keithahn just lagged and try and steal that 9th point.
Yeah, absolutely. Now you're a 3-3 lag out. Keithahn lags a 1. He has to lag a deuce to get out. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think we have people probably watching this that probably most of the people watching this don't play at a high competitive level. That 9 and 12 are huge key numbers in this game, because they both represent 1 lag or 2 lags from winning the game. So if you could steal that 9th point in Jason's shoes, you would certainly love that.
And he
Well,
puts
that's
in another 2 there.
that's just totally dialed in there
Yeah.
because certainly many players would have been content with a 1 there.
That's having no fear right there.
Or as the great Billy Mays used to call those scared deuces. A 1 that maybe floated a little bit for you. But that's definitely a step on the throat shot right there, talking about trying to build some momentum for the next game. That's kind of a I'm having none of that kind of lag.
I believe Jason had hammer the first game. Correct?
I was just going to ask you if you remember how that.
I believe so. So, towards the end of the game, like I said, I don't feel like this is a major hammer control board, but at 14-8, you start to think there's probably not a good chance of me getting out of this game with a win from 8 to 14. Let's start thinking about the next game and where do I want hammer at.
Yep, exactly. If you have a chance to choose what end the game ends on, that might make a difference.
And we just saw Keithahn lag 2 deuces coming this way. I don't think I want Keithahn lagging this.
Yeah, absolutely.
The way that he just lagged, so I'm okay. I'm going to try to steal a point there and give him the win coming back if I can't get something major working.
Yeah, you sure don't want to lag off here, get beat badly, and give him the end that he appears to be totally dialed into.
Right. It looks like that's what happened. So I think Keithahn will have the hammer going back to the end that he has just been he's lagged 2 straight deuces from some pretty dangerous scores to do that from. So you have to be extremely confident lagging a deuce from, I think, 9 to 5 and what was it, 12 to 8. So
David, what speed are those? 16s. I'd be curious to see which weights Jason's playing with, because they definitely look like his are floating a little bit. I'm guessing they might be 20s, which are a hair faster than the 16s that David's using.